No, you don't think that.
Hi, my name is O Gorman. I'm from the Stone. I built my own house in 2007. I had a back injury, and since then I've had trouble with the banks myself, and that's what got me involved. I've never been into politics or anything like that in my life. For years I struggled on with trying to deal with the banks, and I seen what way the banks treat you when you're trying to deal with them. Last Christmas I was at home, I was gone to Minted, I was by myself. There was no one I could talk to, nowhere by the government to provide information and help. And on TV then I seen Dermot Flynn on Vincent Brown, and I went up to Ballyhale and I joined Ballyhale. Going to Ballyhale, I met Mary, Rita and Miles in the car park, and that day we decided we'd come down to Tralee and we'd start the Tralee Says No group. On the first day I thought we might have 10 people, 5 people. We were lucky, we had 40 people that were interested enough to come out and stand up for what's right. In the last 6 months we met a great group of people up there, great bunch of people. We walk every weekend. We walked in the rain, hail, snow, hail, everything. But one thing we had every week with us, we had the truth. And that's what we stood for, was the truth. Because if we're silent, our silence is our consent. If we want to be changed, we have to be that change. That change isn't going to come from the government down, it has to come from the ground up if we want change. We are 1% of the population of Europe. We are paying back 45% of the bank bailout. In Europe it works out at 192 euros per head. In Ireland it works out at 10,000 euros per head. Austerity. Does austerity work? Austerity is based on 2 papers that were designed by 2 economics lecturers from Harvard. Their paper was proven wrong 2 months ago by another paper that was released. But we don't need a paper to tell us that austerity doesn't work. We live here every day, we know it doesn't work. We've gone back into recession again. It's around the 5th or 6th time we've gone back into recession since 2008. There is 300,000 people gone from our shores. 300,000 people. Not since the famine has 300,000 people left our shores. Their brothers, sisters, daughters, sons, people in our community. It will leave a scar on the souls of the Irish people.
You're here. You're here.
There is 14%, according to the government, there's 14% of us that are unemployed. But when you take into account the small bits of part-time work and the silly courses the government have you to break you off the unemployment, the actual real figure is up at 25%, not 14% as they tell you. People are being evicted from their homes. 130 years ago, Stu Parnell started the Land League. We all read about it in our history books at school. Did we think we'd be standing here in 2013 after our government is after taking the leashes off the banks to let them come back and start evicting people from their houses? And they're going to be started this year, and it's going to be going on. Families are going to be dragged from their houses. Our services that we pay taxes for, like hospitals, schools, the guards, roads, water, all being cut. Home help for the people in our community that need it most is being cut. Special needs for our kids at school that are trying to start off in life are being cut, and there's lots of more cuts. And Vincent Brown, the last night we had mental illness. Mental illness is on the rise in this country. For the last couple of years they've cut mental illness again and again. According to the World Health Organization, by 2020 it's going to be the second worst problem after cancer in the world, and our government is cutting it and leaving the people most vulnerable in society left to their own devices. Last couple of months ago I went down to Tralee. I walked with 4,000 people in the middle of the night for a 5k walk to raise money for Peta House. There was 30,000 people all over Ireland that walked that day to raise money for Peta House, that are raising money for the people with mental illness or for somewhere to go. Not the government. Again, it was the people that are doing it. The price of everything has gone up. The price of food has gone up. The price of gas has gone up. The price of electricity, petrol has gone up. Electricity has gone up on an average of 500 euros since 2008 in everyone's house. That's taxes by the government. And I could go on and on. Water taxes, household taxes, all the rest of them. Small businesses are the lifeline of the country, and the government have taxed them again and again. If you drive through some towns, they're like ghost towns, with businesses closed up, shut up. That's because taxes on everyone's wages, we don't have money to spend, and they're killing the economy. And for what? For what are we doing all this? We're doing it to pay back the bankers that broke all their own rules. Then they broke the rules of the central bank to get their license. They broke them rules. We're paying back for the bondholders that took a gamble on them banks. We're putting it for the euro, to save the euro that was badly planned out from day one. It's not our fault. They planned it out, and the euro was a mess. And the ECB had no regulations to cover all of this, and we're the ones that are paying for it. Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Labour, they've all looked after themselves, and they've all looked after the bankers and the euro, and they've all had a nice, soft landing.
Yeah.
But the Irish people, what have we got? We're still in recession after 5 years of this austerity. We have 3 billion in the next budget coming, and we have 2 billion in the budget coming after that. Anglo and the Anglo tapes have proven what Ballyhay have been saying for the last 2.5 years, and what Tralee and Killarney have been saying, and all the other groups around the country. This bank debt is not our debt. The government, the civil servants, the central bank, the regulators, the bankers, they've all sold out the Irish people for a tune of 64 billion. And with interest, that will go well above 100 billion. And who has to pay it back for the next 40 years? It's us. Are you going to stand up and let this happen? Are you going to stand up and take action against them?
No! 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 No!
Are you going to go looking into the eyes of your kids and your grandkids and tell them that you've done nothing about it? I, for one, am not. Last February, the government passed a bill to liquidise Anglo in the middle of the night when most people were asleep inside their beds. At 2 o'clock in the morning, the chief whip called his boys out of the Dáil bar. He told them what to vote for. They all done exactly what he said. They voted an IOU into sovereign debt. So you and your kids and us will have to pay this back for the next 40 years. When you woke up in the morning, they told you you were after getting a deal. A deal for 1 billion this year and 1 billion next year. What they didn't tell you is that 30 billion is going to turn into 50 billion over the next 40 years. Is this the transparent democracy that we were promised before the last election? I don't think so. We have until the end of 2014 to stop the government from selling these bonds. We are standing up for it. There's court cases that are standing up for it. David Hall, Joe Collins, there's lots of other court cases. We are still fighting these Anglo bonds. My daughter is 6 years of age. She will be nearly 50 before this money is paid back in 2053. She will have to work most of her adult life to pay back this debt. She was only 1 in 2008 when the crash. She wasn't even born when they caused this mess. The young can't stand up for themselves. It's up to us, every person in Ireland that has air in their lungs, every man and woman that can draw a breath, stand up and fight this injustice. Woo. As you stand here today on the steps of the courthouse in Tralee, not one person has gone to jail, not one person for a 64 billion bank robbery. In 5 years, not one court case. On behalf of the people of Kerry and on behalf of the people of Ireland, I call for the justice to be served on them, the full letter of the law on them that sold the future of Ireland and the future of the old for greed. We are now living in a time in history that is as important as any other time in history. We are now This time in history will remember for hundreds and hundreds of years to come. It'll remember for one or two things. It'll remember for either the great bank robbery of the Irish people, or remember for the time that the Irish people stood up to this government, stood up and took back the power from these people to the so-called leaders. Which part of history do you want to be a part of? It's your choice. The choice is now. Join us every Sunday at the County Buildings to build a brighter future for ourselves and for our kids and our grandchildren. Thank you.